today we begin our discussion with the other topic, the the next topic. So in the previous lecture we had covered till the command structure, right? So we had seen how exactly a command looks like in Unix. So it always begins with the command name followed by options and then the arguments, right? So we know the syntax of the command there. So as soon as the command name is given, you are supposed to provide a set of white spaces and then followed by its options. You may either list the options or may not list the options, and followed by it again a set of blank spaces followed by the arguments, right? See, the session has been recorded, so please uh, do not unmute yourselves in between there. Okay, so we had seen the command structure, right? So we had seen the various rules with respect to writing a command in Unix. So today we shall see a few commands, right? The example commands, the basic commands. How exactly are they written in Unix? So we start with locating commands there. Are you people able to see the screen? Are you able to see the simulator? So are you people able to see the simulator there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes. So we are making use of Cocal C. Okay. So then we start a discussion by locating commands, right? So where do we find a set of commands that the Unix shell tries to execute, right? So we already know that Unix system is command based. That is, things happen only because of the commands that we key in, right? So, and we also know that a Unix command may have a maximum of 4 characters, right? So it can be 4 characters long. Okay, and every Unix command is a single word. Okay, and all these names are always written in lowercase letters. Okay, so therefore if you write a command which is a part of our Unix system, but if it is written in capitals, then it is not going to work, right? Because all these commands have their predetermined meaning to it. Correct. So how do we locate where exactly this command is in our Unix system? So for doing it, we have a command known as type. Okay, so let us say we want to find out a command called as cat. Okay, or let us say we want to find out the command called as who. So let me type in the command for it. So type who is the command. I want to find out the location of the command who. Where exactly is it situated the in which particular directory of the Unix system. So if you can observe here, it says that who is located in root user bin directory. So in bin directory, you have the command who. So we also know that all the commands in Unix are nothing but written using C programming, right? So they are small pieces of C codes, correct? So now, similarly, if I want to find out where exactly the cat command is situated in Unix system, so again I can make use of the command type followed by the name of the command that I would like to search, that is cat, and hit an enter, right? So it says that the cat command is in user bin cat directory, right? It's also located in user bin directory, correct? So what is the meaning of who? So I had told you that Unix offers us a manual, right? So by making use of man command, you can find out the meanings of each of the commands, right? So here, let me type the command who, right? What exactly does it stand for? So you can see here, who command is going to show us who are the users that are who are the users, those who have logged into the system, right? So similarly, we made use of a command called as cat, right? So let us check what does the cat command perform. Okay, so again I shall give cat as the input to the shell here. So see here, cat command is basically used to concatenate files and to print it onto the standard output. So if you still want to know various different options that are supported by cat, then you can go to the man page of cat. Seems like internet on my side is quite a bit slow. So we'll get okay. So see here, it gives the meaning of the cat command. It also gives us the syntax of the cat command. It begins with the command cat followed by set of options and the argument, right? So it is basically used to concatenate files. So the arguments would be the name of the files. So all these things that begin with the minus symbol there are denoting the options that can be used with the cat command. Okay. So then, anybody has a query with respect to type command here? I repeat, type command is used to locate a particular command. That is, it is basically used to identify the actual directory where exactly the command that we are requesting for is located. Right? Okay. So here, the next thing that we are going to look into is the path variable, right? So whenever I key in a particular command, right? So is the screen visible? Okay. Okay. So now let us look into the path variable, right? What exactly do we have in the variable path? So I told you, as soon as we hit a command, then the shell is going to find out the actual location of the command before it starts its execution, right? So we can find out the path of the content of the path variable by making use of the command echo followed by the variable path. Correct. So what you can see on the screen is nothing but this entire string is said to be the path of the is said to be the content of the path variable here, right? So I repeat, it is the sequence of directories that the shell shall be searching in to look for a command that you have given, right? So here all these colon separated strings, all these colon separated strings are nothing but the directory structures, or it's the hierarchy of the directories that the shell would be looking for a command in, right? So the very first slash here is the topmost directory. It is called as root. Correct. So below root. So let us consider the second string here. That is after this colon, you have slash cocalc slash source slash smc project slash bin, right? So this second string between these two colons, wherein slash stands for the root directory, right? So below this root directory, you have one more directory known as cocalc. So below this directory, you have a directory called as source. So in this source, you have a directory called as smc project, under which you have a directory called as bin, right? So please do not confuse yourself with the root directory as well as the root user account. Both are two different things, right? So here, what you see is this entire string that is appearing on the screen is said to be the content of our path variable. Okay. So here, when you issue a command, then the shell is going to search in this list. It is going to search this list in the sequence specified to locate and execute a particular command. Okay. So now let me give a command called as netscape. So very first of all, okay, let us see what happens if I type a command called as netscape. So what does the shell say? Shell says that netscape is not a command. It is not found in the system, right? So here, as netscape does not fall into any of these directories, it is not a command because shell cannot find its code there, right? So now we have two different types of commands. One is the internal command and the other one is the external command, right? So what do we mean by an internal command and what do we mean by an external command, right? So so if a program or a file is having its independent existence, right, in some directory, uh, in the slash bin directory, then we call it to be an external command, right? So most commands are external, but there are some commands which are not really found anywhere in the system, right? And some which are normally not executed even if they are in one of the directories that are specified in the path. Okay, so such commands we call them as internal commands. So let us not make it complicated. In simple terms, an external command is the one whose file is having an independent existence in the slash bin directory. Okay, so how do we find out whether the command is an external command or not? So let us see it again with the help of an example here. Okay, so this time let me give a command okay. So let us give a command called as type echo, right? So it is saying that echo is a shell built-in command, right? So it means that echo does not have its independent existence in the bin directory, right? So similarly, let me say type cat. So what does it say? Cat is in user bin directory. So it means that cat is of the type external command. So are you people understanding what do we mean by an external command? I repeat, an external command is the one which is independently existing in the bin directory, right? So the commands that are really not found anywhere, or the ones which are normally not executed, even if they are in one of the directories that is specified in the path, then such commands are known as the external commands, right? Sorry, these commands are known as the internal commands. So here the example of echo is nothing but echo is an internal command, right? So similarly, let us again try one more command, type cd. So when I type cd, it again says that cd is the part of shell itself. So therefore it means that cd is also a type of internal command, correct? So similarly, the next time if I run the command type cp, so cp stands for copying the files, right? So it says that cp is also existing in the directory user bin, so it is also of the type external command, correct? So anybody, is it clear what do we mean by internal commands and what do we mean by external commands? Any one of you can respond? Yes. Okay. So then, okay. So internal commands are the built-in commands, right? So sometimes the commands might be having their physical independent existence in the bin directory, but still they are not executed because they are also the part of the shell there, right? So the shell is an external command with a difference. That is, it has its own set of internal commands, right? And so, if a command exists in both, if a command exists as both the internal command as well as internal command of a shell as well as the external one, then the shell is going to give a preference to the internal command, even though the name of the commands remain same, right? So similarly here we have seen an example called as echo, right? So echo also exists in the bin directory, but echo is also a part of shell. So what the shell does is it gives a preference to echo command that exists within the shell, right? So then, okay. So then yesterday when we were talking about the command structure, we said that a command takes options followed by set of arguments, right? So now there are some exceptions to it, right? That is the exceptions to the general syntax of the command. So here we have commands that don't take any arguments at all, right? So I'm talking about the arguments, the third part of the command there, right? So we have some commands which execute without taking any arguments, and we also have some commands wherein we may or may not specify the arguments, right? So these commands may run without having arguments to it, and there are some commands which may run only by taking only the options but may neglect the arguments, and there are some commands which take the options as well as the arguments, right? So I mean to say that the command structure never remains fixed, right? So we have different types of commands. I repeat, we have some commands which do not accept any arguments, and we have some that may or may not be specified with the arguments, right? And then we have some commands that run without the arguments, and we have some commands which run using the combination of both the options as well as the arguments. So now let us have a look into some of these commands there. So, okay. So see here, commands that run without arguments. So let us say we will run a command called as pwd. So pwd stands for present working directory. So the present working directory here is home user, right? So have you observed that this particular command is neither taking options nor is it taking the arguments, right? So similarly, here we have a command called as who. So this command who may take the arguments or may not take the arguments. So let us run this command who minus minus all. So this command who actually it is going to list out the various different users who have logged into this system. So as I am making use of this simulation here, I am not getting the list of the users who have logged into this system, right? Because it is not installed onto my PC. So if you are running Unix, as soon as you log into the system and run this command, it will be showing you the name of the user who is logged into the system there, right? So similarly, we have some commands that can run without the arguments, right? And some with only the options and some with only the file names, or some with both the options, right? Both the options as well as the file names. So here we shall run the ls command. So ls command is taking neither the options nor the arguments. This time I shall run ls with an option -l, right? So it is listing me out various different files that exist on this system. right? So ls minus l is the option. So now let me run the command ls minus l including the option, and then let us also give the argument to it, right? So what it is doing, it is the name of the command is ls, it is taking an option, along with it it is also taking an argument. It is listing out all the details of all the files that exist in this particular folder, right? So in this folder we have four different files, f1.txt, f2.txt, f3 as well as fov, right? So see the variations in the ls command itself. Okay. Okay. So one more version to ls is ls command can be written by eliminating the option part and just retaining the argument to it. So I have, so anything that begins with the symbol minus, we said it's an option, right? So here, please note here, I have skipped the option. I've just given the argument, that is the name of the directory there. So now when I hit enter, it is going to list me out the names of the files that exist in this particular directory. So are you understanding? Yes? Anybody there? Can you respond back?
Yes.
Okay. So then, there are some commands that cannot at all run without making use of options and arguments. They need both, right? So for example, we have commands like cp and cut. So cp stands for copying one file into another, and cut stands for eliminating a list of characters or a list of bytes from a particular file. So it becomes very necessary for us to specify the names of the files on which these commands are going to work on, right? So if you want, you can try here. So if I give a command called as cp, then it says that the operands, file operands are missing. So it means that it needs two file names, right? So similarly, cut. So cut also says that you must specify the list of bytes or the various different types of characters that you want to cut from a particular file, right? Or the fields that you want to cut in a file, along with the name of the file here. Okay. So I hope there is no doubt there. Even though the command structure is fixed, but there is there is no hard and fast rule that you are always going to make use of both the options as well as the arguments. Sometimes you can miss upon some commands may not need an option, some commands may not need arguments, some commands may work only with options eliminating the arguments, and sometimes there are stringent commands which require both the options as well as the arguments, right? So then we can also combine multiple commands together in Unix. So we had seen a feature of Unix which said that every single job is every specific task is performed by executing a small single command there, right? So every command has its own job to perform. So now, and we have also seen that Unix allows us to combine two or more commands together. So now what we'll do is we'll first execute the commands separately. We'll see the outputs of these commands, and then we'll see how exactly are we how exactly can we combine these two commands together, and what would be the output of combining these two commands. Okay. So let me make use of the command wc. Before do it, shall move into the directory. So see the contents of this directory using the ls command. We have 4 different text files, f1, f2, f3 till f4. Right? So now I would like to count the number of words in the file f1. So before doing that, let us first see what exactly is the content of the file f1. So f1 dot txt. Okay. So we have I've entered some garbage text there. Okay. So if you can observe, then there are 2 words in this particular file f1. Okay. So let us count the number of words in this f1.txt, right? So there is a single user of the file. There are 2 words in the file, 28 bytes, right? The name of the file is f1.txt. So after performing the word count, what we shall do is we shall run the ls command there to perform a long listing of the details of the file f1.txt. Right? So ls minus l option stands for long listing of this particular file. It gives us the long listing details of it. Right? So very first string that you see here RWRR, right? So these are all the read write permissions that are associated with the file f1, right? So user is the owner of this file f1, right? The date and time of its creation. Okay. So now we have seen 2 commands wc as well as ls. So now let us see how we can combine them together. Okay. So we'll be making use of a meta character called as a semicolon through which we can combine both these commands. So therefore an opening parenthesis followed by wc command wc f1 dot txt, right? So we'll put a semicolon and then ls minus l f1 dot txt, close the brackets. So I'll also make use of a redirection operator here, right? So this greater than symbol stands for a redirection operator. So let me redirect whatever is the output of this command into a file f2.txt. Okay. So whatever is the output of this file is written into the file f2.txt, right? So let us see what is the content of the file f2 here. Vi f2.txt. So can you see the contents of the file f2.txt here? So very firstly, we had the word count, the number of words that existed in the file f1.txt, and then we have the details of when exactly this f1.txt that was being created, right? So f2.txt file has a combined output of both the commands that we had sent. Any doubts so far? Can you people please
No, ma'am.
know, right? Okay. So I repeat, semicolon here stands for a meta character, right? So further in the coming chapters, we shall come across several meta characters that have a special meaning to shell. Okay, so I hope no doubts so far. I I will give you a homework, an assignment to do, a very small bit to do. So what I want to do is find out some basic commands in Unix, right? And try to categorize them into internal commands as well as external commands. Okay, so in the next class, I shall be picking any one of you, and the one whom I am going to pick is going to list out the commands and bifurcate them into internal as well as external commands. Okay, so if anybody has a query, you can ask now only, or otherwise, we wind off. No queries? Okay, then. So you people can leave the meeting. We shall.
Ma'am, a small
Yes.
request.
Yes. Yes.
Ma'am, oh, directly on the app you're teaching some points you're not getting, ma'am. Can you please show us PPT or us using the textbook content and then teach? It will be easy for us to understand.
Okay. 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 Fine then. I